Do you know what we need? I think I know precisely what we need, and what we need is this, a drinks trolley to provide us with a little sharpener as we engage in another fairly torrid tale, I have to say, on the way. What have you selected today, Suze?
Well, I've gone for a soft IPA from the Lake District Brewery, Lakes Brewery Company, called Running Up That Hill.
Yes.
It's a great name. Matt, Citra Dino Boost, and Mosaic hops.
Oh, the Dino Boost.
Got to have a bit of Dino Boost.
Yeah, in the morning.
5.3%. So.
Oh, right, very nice. Okay, well, that'll be very nice. Thank you. I'll have a swift half. Today's confession which comes from Mr. C. That's how it's signed.
Okay.
And I guess has a 12, PG-12. It's just a bit, if you're eating, it might be one of those.
I like these, yes.
And also is unique. It takes us to a territory that we've never, part of it is familiar, but where it comes from, I don't think so.
Oh, right.
Father Simon and the Collective. My name is Mr. C. Probably best to stick to anonymity. I'm seeking forgiveness for something that happened in the late 1980s when I was the only trainee engineer on a deep water trawler off Greenland. There you go. We haven't done this before.
Wow.
It involves plumbing, Arctic weather, and 45 men who found the whole thing far funnier than I did. As the trainee, I was naturally given all the glamorous jobs. Anything involving pipes, smells, or substances that should never be discussed in polite company was automatically mine.
Oh.
Yeah. But also,
Okay.
we had been fishing for weeks, and once the quota was hit, we anchored in a fjord, bought fish from the locals, and then processed them on board. All the leftover bits were chopped up and pumped into the sea. The local wildlife seemed delighted. One day, the ship's toilet system failed.
Oh, no.
After some investigation, we discovered that the vacuum tank, which, as you know, is designed for transporting sludge and waste material over long distances, was full.
Oh.
The tank should have been emptied back home, but it had not been. The crew were becoming increasingly desperate because if that was full, then
What are you going to do?
Oh.
My instructions were simply sort it. Because that's the only way you can say sort it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So as a lone trainee who didn't know any better, I did. Whenever the fish waste pumps were running, I quietly switched on the vacuum tank pump as well. My thinking was that one pump running would hide the other pump running, and the toilets worked again. The crew were happy. No one asked questions, and for a whole month, this little arrangement carried on. And then came the day we upped anchor, or tried to. The ship had frozen into the ice. As we broke free, I looked over the side and I saw it. A 15 to 20 foot frozen mass bobbing gently in the water.
Right.
Oh.
A pooberg.
Okay. Yes. No, we've got it now.
Excellent.
A full tank and a month's worth of output from 45 hardworking men preserved by the Arctic like some sort of biological iceberg. The skipper thought it was hilarious. The crew thought it was hilarious. I, the only trainee, did not. The ribbing began immediately. The jokes were endless. A new urban legend was born, and unfortunately, I was at the centre of it. We assumed that was the end of the story, but it was not. About a week later, we noticed unusual activity. First, small boats, then bigger boats, then helicopters. Radio chatter suggested that something had been found in the ice, something unusual, something exciting, something that, from the tone of the voices, sounded rather important. Naturally, being a nosy lot, we got as close as we could. Through the binoculars, we saw researchers climbing over a large frozen mass, taking samples, photographing it and preparing to winch it aboard a ship. They were treating it like an archaeological find. There was talk, because we heard it over the radio, of a preserved mammoth.
What?
It was only then that we recognized the shape, the color, the texture, the unmistakable horror of it. They had found our pooberg. Almost all of the 45 grown men stood on deck in hysterics as a team of highly trained scientists enthusiastically examined what they believed to be a prehistoric marvel, but was in fact the frozen digestive legacy of our entire crew, delivered to the Arctic by one trainee with a bright idea. Father Simon, I confess that not one of us picked up the radio to tell them the truth. Not the skipper, nor the officers, and certainly not the lone trainee. I think you've mentioned that a few times, Mr. C. We simply let them carry on because none of us wanted to be the one to say, excuse me, that's not a mammoth. That is us.
Yes.
For this collective sin of pollution, deception, and allowing innocent scientists to poke something that they should not have poked, I humbly request forgiveness. Yours in shame from Mr. C. Well, now, I love this. I love having a story from Greenland. I love having a story from a deep sea trawler. We don't get many of these. And obviously the vacuum tank thing was someone else's mistake, and Mr. C engaged his creativity, did what he had to do.
Yes.
I just can't quite work out how thick a scientist has to be to confuse a pooberg for a mammoth. But anyway, this is not my role. This is Susie. What do you say?
Well, yes, he was doing his best, wasn't he, with a very unfortunate situation there. And it's always nice to see Ray Winston in Greenland
Sorted.
too, on a boat.
Yes.
And very, very funny. I do feel like someone should have told the scientists because, it might have downgraded over the years and maybe it did look like a mammoth from a certain angle. I don't know. I'm finding it quite hard to find reason, but I'm going to not forgive.
Okay, now hopefully people will realise why today's confession has been called Libra, and my name is Charles. Float on by the floaters.
Oh, I see.
There you go.
No, I didn't get that. Well done.
Brother Matthew.
Okay. Yes, very good. Yes, I'm going to forgive. As you point out, what are these scientists doing where they can't tell the difference between poo and a mammoth? Surely that's like week one in being a scientist. You'd think they'd have covered that, and they clearly hadn't. Mind you, they'd have been doing the tests. And isn't this what the Eskimos were doing in Greenland many years ago? We don't know, but it could be. So for all of those reasons, I'm going to forgive.
Forgiveness or not, please. 61054 on the text. First word is Simon. But just before the news, today's confession from Mr. C came from Greenland and from a deep sea trawler where Mr. C was the trainee, as he told us many times.
Yes.
But it was his responsibility to sort out the fact that the plumbing and the toilets were wrong. When he did sort it out, it ended up as what he calls a pooberg, later investigated by top scientists who thought it was a mammoth or something. Anyway, the people's verdict, here we go.
Forgiven, says Bill. The confession was hilarious. I'm crying so much I had to pull over. Funniest thing I've heard in ages. Rosie Kate says, definitely forgiven. The guy was just doing his best. No one told him how to fix the problem. But mostly, I now want to hear from one of those scientists. Yes. What did they think after doing all those tests? And Adam, the truck driver, says, forgiven. They had to do what they had to do. Not their fault that the tanks weren't emptied. I blame the system.
Very good. They were Jobsworth, maybe.
Jobsworth, oh, very good.
Just
everyone's getting in on it. Yes.
Okay. So your confession would be very welcome. Please send it to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk.
Nice.
I hope you're impressed. Anyway, Suze, what are you offering today?
Well, I'm sure you could make you a hot chocolate, but no, I haven't brought that with me. I've got a double dry hopped hazy pale ale for you today. It's called Stacking Boxes, 5.5%, easy drinking, kind of peachy passion fruity flavours, and it's got Citra, Mosaic and Galaxy hops.
Galaxy, that's hot chocolate.
Yeah, that's true. That's as close as we're going to get. So today's confession is somewhere between a 12 and I think 12 is probably okay.
Oh, wow.
Nudging upwards.
Good.
Anyway, it comes from Jonathan. Father Simon and the Oh So Forgiving Collective. It is with a heavy heart that I feel I must, after 50 years, confess something that I have carried all this time. The event in question goes back to the summer of 1976, when I was just 9 years old. You see, Father Simon, we lived in a quiet market town of Newton Abbot in Devon, not by the sea, and would holiday at my grand's house in Newquay, by the sea. On this fateful Saturday in early July, I'd found myself with nothing to do, and so decided to head across Newton Abbot and go and see my dad, who was at his allotment. It was a mighty walk for a boy of 9, allowed to go it alone back then.
Wow.
Different times. I would walk from our house through the town centre, and then I had to climb up a very steep hill to reach my dad's allotment at the other side of town. The hill was so steep that the road up it zigzagged so cars could climb and descend on a safe gradient. This meant that at the bend in the road, before it zigzagged, natural paths had emerged in the undergrowth where you could avoid having to walk the zig and the zag. It was on one of these shortcuts that my eye was drawn to the right, where the undergrowth had been freshly trodden down to create a path, and it looked like there might be a new den under a tree in the undergrowth at the end. I needed to check it out. I pushed myself through the undergrowth and entered a little enclosed area that someone had made. It's a new den, definitely, I thought. At that moment, my eye was once again drawn to something. This time it was something pink that seemed to have been hidden under some branches that had been arranged on the floor at the back of the den. Further inspection revealed it to be some kind of inflatable item that had been rolled up. I had deduced this due to spotting a blow nozzle, as I believe they're called. I was proud of my balloon inflating ability back then. However, nothing prepared me for the effort required to inflate my mystery object. So much so that it necessitated me closing my eyes as I did so in order to maximize puff.
Probably best.
This meant that I didn't really comprehend what was inflating and unfolding before me. After a while, I finally finished inflating my item. As I flipped it over and saw for the first time a lady with a somewhat startled expression on her face, I was beside myself with excitement. A beach lilo shaped like a lady, I thought.
Yes.
Wait till they see me on the beach with this. Proud of my new acquisition, I decided it was time to go and show it to my dad. I carefully navigated it out of the den entrance, still fully inflated, and returned to the path, carrying it above my head to keep it safe.
Of course. Wow.
Now, Father Simon, this particular road in Newton Abbot was not the busiest of roads, but on that day there was a steady stream of cars that passed me by. Some tooted their horn, and for others I could hear as the cars passed by sounds of shrieks and laughter coming from within. As I reached the top of the hill, I approached the gate to my dad's allotment. It was the busiest I'd ever seen it. Many of these people had become good friends of my dad. For me, this was even more reason why my dad would be proud when I entered, because now all of his friends could witness what a clever son he had. I decided to make that big entrance. I opened the gate. I took 2 steps forward so the entire allotment would be able to see me. Then I thrust my arms upward to raise my new beach lilo above my head and proudly shouted as loud as I could, "Dad, look what I found!" All heads turned to see the 9-year-old boy that had hoisted something quite unexpected above his head, standing at the entrance. Father Simon, I had never until that moment seen my father run. But this he now did towards me at a speed I didn't realize he was capable of. At this point, things turned a little confusing for me, as my dad didn't seem to have his happy face on. "Where did you get that?" he said. "I found it," I replied, not helping much. It was at this moment that I started to suspect he wasn't as pleased as I had anticipated. This was further confirmed by him wrestling the lilo from my tight grip and proceeding to pull the cap from the blow nozzle.
Oh, not the blow nozzle.
The location of which, to my surprise, he seemed to already know about.
Right, well.
He worked to deflate my lilo as fast as he could, squeezing it hard to make it go down as quickly as possible. "Can I take it to the beach next week, Dad?" "No," he replied, with an authority I knew not to question. And with that, he went through the gate, looked both ways to check no one was coming or watching, and ran to his car and stuffed my lilo in the boot, closing it slightly harder than he normally did. Later at home, the whole sequence of events was explained to my mum, who reassured me I had done nothing wrong. My mum insisted that the lilo was, however, to be thrown away immediately and not in our bins in case anyone should see it, but rather that my dad was to drive into Newton Abbot in the dead of night and dispose of it in a public bin.
Yes.
It was only later in life, Father Simon, that the events of that day made any sense to me. And therefore, I seek forgiveness. Not from the person who owned the novelty beach lilo and had hidden it in the den. You shouldn't have been doing that kind of thing anyway. Instead, I seek forgiveness from all the shocked passers-by on that day, from my friends, my dad's friends at the allotment, who witnessed the spectacle, for the shame my mum was subjected to, from the council workers that had to collect my lilo, but most of all from my dear dad, sadly no longer with us, who suffered the embarrassment of his son turning up at his safe place carrying a startled-looking inflatable lady and causing him to drive into town in the dead of night to dispose of it. I hope you can find it in your hearts to forgive. Yours in hope, Jonathan. Well, I think there's an awful lot of drama there. I don't think he's done anything wrong particularly. but it's a bit of a favourite, I think. What do you say, Sister Susie?
Oh, very good, Jonathan. That was one of my favourites. I think you were 9. You were 9. You know, I should probably not forgive you because you embarrassed your dad. But I just think you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't know any better. I'm completely forgiving this one.
He thought his dad was going to be proud of him. Brother Matthew.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's going to forgive this one, I think, tonight. That's the best one we've done for a while. Very, very funny. Where was the blow nozzle, Dad? Oh, turns out it's right there. Lovely. In a way,
yes.
You know, the other person who'd been getting rid of the inflatable lady had dumped it, and they ended up dumping it as well. So, sort of circle of life, in a way.
Is that right?
Probably.
Okay.
So, for all those reasons, I'm going to forgive.
61054 for your text. The first word is Simon. Is Jonathan forgiven? Yes or no? Just before the news, we had a confession from Jonathan about a novelty lilo that he found hidden in the undergrowth on the walk to his dad's allotment, and he carried it and he was very proud of it. His dad, however, was slightly less enamoured and had to throw it in the bin. Anyway, novelty lilos, there's a thing, never heard of them before. Matt, what do people say?
Vicky in Northampton says, Jonathan is completely forgiven. I haven't laughed so much for ages, even though my teenager in the car with me is currently completely confused, and we may now need to have a little conversation about startled lady lilos. Janet on Hailing Island says, not forgiven, only because even as a 9-year-old, who touches something they randomly found in a bush? If it's not yours, don't touch it. And Jeanette in Dudley says, forgiven, funniest confession in ages, glad it wasn't blown out of all proportion.
You would like that somehow. Okay, thank you for all the verdicts and thank you for the confessions. If you have one, please send it to confessions@greatesthitsradio.co.uk.